My brother's voice carried perfectly through the Bluetooth speaker on my kitchen counter. I hadn't touched it in 3 months, not since I moved out, but I never canceled the account. And I never told him that the speaker had a microphone. She always was the dramatic one, he was saying, and I could hear the clink of glasses in the background, the low murmur of a crowd. Mum worked her whole life for that condo. Claire just swooped in and got her name on the paperwork. You think she earned that? Laughter. Actual laughter. I sat in my car in the underground parking garage of my own building, 3 floors beneath the suite where my brother and his girlfriend were apparently hosting a dinner party, with my wine, in my home. They thought I was in Vancouver. A last-minute work trip, I had told them, because I needed them to believe it. They didn't know I had driven back 6 hours early. They didn't know the building superintendent had already changed the key fob codes on my instruction that morning. They didn't know that the smart lock on Unit 1204 was now paired to a new owner profile. Mine. I set my phone on the dashboard and opened the app. The floor plan of my condo lit up in blue lines. Every sensor, every camera, every connected device. I had installed the system 2 weeks ago, while my brother was still calling me every other day asking when he could swing by to grab a few things. What he called grabbing a few things had cost me $11,000 in missing furniture, a laptop, and a KitchenAid stand mixer I had saved up for over 8 months. I hadn't said a word about any of it. I had just started building the file. I tapped the camera icon. Living room feed. My brother, Derek, was sitting at my dining table in a shirt I had never seen before, expensive, fitted. His girlfriend, Vanessa, was pouring wine from a bottle I recognized immediately. It was a 2019 Tawes Pinot Noir from Niagara. I had been saving it for my promotion dinner. My mother was there too, sitting at the head of the table, the chair I had bought at a vintage market on Queen Street West, the one I had spent an afternoon refinishing by hand. She looked comfortable. She looked like she belonged there. She had told me last week that she hadn't been feeling well, that she was resting at home, that I shouldn't worry. I pressed my back into the car seat and breathed out slowly. My name is Claire Nguyen. I am 31 years old. I am a licensed forensic accountant, working in compliance for a mid-sized firm in Toronto. I spent 7 years building the kind of careful, methodical mind that notices when numbers don't add up, when timelines don't line up, when stories have seams in them. I am very good at my job. It took me an embarrassingly long time to turn that skill on my own family. The first time I noticed something wrong, I dismissed it. I was 26, just out of my CPA articling. I had received my first real bonus and deposited it into the joint savings account my mother had suggested we open together to help me build good habits. Her name was on the account as a co-signer. Standard, she had said, just for emergencies. 3 months later, $14,000 was gone. My mother explained it calmly over the phone. Derek had needed it for a rental deposit. A great apartment in the annex. Very hard to find. The money would come back. It never came back. I told myself it was a family loan. I told myself that's what you do. You help. When I bought my condo 4 years ago, a pre-construction unit in Leslieville that I had saved a down payment for over 5 years, my mother cried at the signing. Happy tears, she said. She asked if she could be listed on the emergency contact for the building. Of course, I said. She asked if Derek could stay for just a few weeks while his lease was up. Of course, I said. That was 19 months ago. Derek never left. I know how that sounds. I know the question people always ask. Why didn't you just change the locks? Why didn't you tell him to go? The answer is that it doesn't happen all at once. It starts with a favor, and then it becomes normal, and then normal becomes expected, and by the time you name what's actually happening, you've been so thoroughly repositioned as the unreasonable one that you start to believe it yourself. My mother was very skilled at that repositioning. Claire is so anxious about things, she would say, in that soft, careful voice. She gets overwhelmed. She needs space to calm down. Every time I raised a concern, it became a symptom. I was stressed. I was being rigid. I needed to be more flexible, more generous, more like the daughter she had raised. The month I asked Derek to find his own place, he told my mother I had screamed at him and thrown something. I hadn't raised my voice. There was nothing thrown. But she called me for 40 minutes about my anger issues, and I spent 2 days wondering if she was right. That was the boiling water. The moment I got out of the pot was an ordinary Tuesday in February. I was auditing a client file at work, a small property management company under review for misclassified expenses. Standard. Routine. I was barely paying attention when I noticed a pattern in the bank transfers. Small, recurring withdrawals, always just under the reporting threshold, always labeled with vague descriptions. Administration. Coordination. Oversight. The words looked familiar. I went home that night and pulled up my own accounts. All of them. Going back 4 years. I printed 112 pages. The pattern was the same. My mother had been added to 3 of my accounts over the years, each time with a reasonable explanation. My phone plan, my car insurance, a joint TFSA she had helped me open when I was 24. From each one, money had moved quietly. Small amounts, irregular intervals, just inconsistent enough to look accidental if you weren't looking carefully. I was looking carefully now. $43,000. That was the number at the bottom of my spreadsheet after 3 nights of cross-referencing. $43,000, moved in increments small enough to miss if you were the kind of person who trusted your mother. I was no longer that kind of person. I didn't cry. I didn't call her. I opened a new document and started building a case file the same way I would for any client. Organized, sourced, time-stamped, with every transfer linked to its corresponding account statement. Then I started planning. I tap open the temperature control on my phone. The condo is currently set to 22 degrees. I drop it to 16, November in Toronto. The building's heating is centralized, but the smart thermostat overrides the in-suite temperature by controlling the fan and the window sensors I had installed. It wouldn't be dangerous, but it would be uncomfortable. Cold enough to make people want their coats. Cold enough to make a party feel less festive. I tapped the Wi-Fi manager next. Derek had been using my network for 19 months. He knew the password. What he didn't know was that I had set up a secondary router last month, quietly rerouting my own devices to a new private network. His phone, Vanessa's phone, my mother's tablet, all still connected to the original network, the one I was now managing remotely. I hit restrict. In the live feed, I watched Derek pick up his phone, frown at it, tap it, hold it up, put it back down. Vanessa did the same. My mother looked unbothered. She never really learned how to use her data. I watched them for a few more minutes. My dining table, my wine glasses, my refinished chair, my promotion wine. Then I opened the Notes app and reread the text I had sent Derek 8 days ago. I need you to find alternate accommodation by the 30th. I've given you more than enough time. This is not negotiable. He had not responded. My mother had called me 4 minutes after I sent it to tell me I was being cruel. I started my car. It was time to go upstairs. The elevator opened on the 12th floor and I walked to my door with the kind of deliberate quiet I use when I'm about to present findings to a board. No performance, no elevated heart rate, just presence and preparation. I swiped my fob. The lock clicked open. Derek was standing in the kitchen when I walked in, mid-laugh, turning to look at me with the particular expression of someone who has been caught but hasn't yet processed it. The laugh froze on his face. Claire. He said it like a question. He did it. The room went quiet. There were 4 other people there. 2 I didn't recognize, Vanessa and my mother, who was already rising from her chair with her hands out, and her face rearranging into the expression I had seen 10,000 times. The soft panic. The preemptive management. Sweetheart, we weren't expecting you back until tomorrow. I know, I said. I set my bag down by the door. Whose coats are on my bed? We just needed a little space to— Could everyone start gathering their things, please? I said, not unkindly. I looked at the 2 strangers. I don't know you, so this isn't personal. The people who invited you here didn't have the authority to do that. Derek stepped forward, and I recognized the shift in his posture immediately. He was going to manage me. He had learned it from watching my mother do it for years. Claire, don't make this into a whole thing. We're just having dinner. In my home. It's Mum's home too, technically. She is not on the title, I said. You are not on the title. No one in this room is on the title except me. My mother's voice dropped to the register she uses for damaged things. Claire, you're upset. That's okay. Why don't we sit down and— I'm not upset, I said, and I meant it completely. I'm a property owner who came home to find unauthorized people in her suite. That's not an emotional situation. It's a legal one. Derek laughed. An uncomfortable, dismissive sound. You're going to call the police on your own family for having dinner. I'm going to call the police if anyone refuses to leave, I said. That's not a threat. It's just what happens next if this conversation goes a different direction. This is insane, Vanessa said, already pulling out her phone. You're welcome to document this, I told her. So am I. I set my own phone on the counter, camera facing the room. Derek grabbed his jacket from the back of my chair. Fine, we'll go. But you know this isn't over, right? Mum has receipts. She contributed to this place. You're not going to be able to just— I know about the $43,000, I said. The room went the specific kind of quiet that means something landed. Derek looked at my mother. My mother looked at the floor. Just for a second, just a flicker, but I had been watching for it. I had built the entire case on the assumption that they both knew, and now I knew too. I don't know what you're talking about, my mother said. That's okay, I said. I have documentation. The 2 strangers were already at the door. They didn't say goodbye. Vanessa left next, not without a look at Derek that I didn't need to interpret. He hesitated in the doorway. He looked younger suddenly, and I had a brief, involuntary flash of the brother he used to be before all of this calcified into something else. "Claire," he said. "Come on. Good night, Derek." He left. My mother was still standing by the dining table, her coat over her arm, her posture composed in that particular way that meant she was preparing a longer argument for later. "This was not how I wanted the evening to go," she said. "I know. Everything I did because I was worried about you. You've always spent money too quickly. You've always been— I have the bank records, Mum. I kept my voice even. All of them. Every transfer going back 4 years. I have the original account agreements, the CRA filings, the records from the property management company you used to redirect 2 of the withdrawals. I've had it for 6 weeks. I wasn't ready to have this conversation until I was sure I had everything." She looked at me for a long time. "You were going to wait," she said slowly. "You set this up." "I documented what happened," I said. "And then I gave you 8 days to respond to Derek's notice. When neither of you did, I came home." She left without saying anything else. I locked the door behind her, changed the fob code through the app, sat down at my dining table, the one she had been sitting at an hour ago, and opened my laptop. The next morning, I filed a formal complaint with the Financial Consumer Agency of Canada regarding the unauthorized account activity. Then I filed a civil claim for the recovery of funds. My lawyer, a woman I had been consulting with quietly for 3 weeks, filed the supporting documents the same afternoon. Derek called me 14 times in 4 days. I let each one go to voicemail. My mother sent a series of texts, first wounded, then reasoning, then, on the 3rd day, a long message explaining that the money had been for my benefit, management of my future, investment in our family's stability. The message had no specific numbers in it, no dates, no receipts. On day 7, I received a letter from her lawyer, a general demand to cease the civil action on the grounds that the transfers had been consensual, that I had been informed and agreeable at the time, that my current claims were a result of a mental health crisis brought on by workplace stress. I had been expecting this. I forwarded the letter to my lawyer, and then I opened a second file on my desktop. Inside were 6 months of therapy records, which I had started as a precaution, knowing this narrative was coming. 3 performance reviews from my firm, all excellent. A letter from my GP, dated 6 weeks prior, confirming a routine wellness check, and a signed statement from my former roommate describing a specific conversation she had witnessed, in which my mother referred to me as unstable to a family friend before I had raised any of the financial concerns. Unprompted. Precautionary. They had been building the story for a long time. I had just been building the counter-evidence longer. The civil proceedings moved forward. Over the following weeks, my mother's lawyer produced documents attempting to show informal agreements had existed. The agreements were verbal, unwitnessed, described only in generalities. My documentation was specific, time-stamped, cross-referenced with bank metadata and CRA records. Derek was listed as a beneficiary of several of the disputed transfers. He retained his own counsel. They stopped speaking to each other for 3 weeks, which I knew only because a cousin texted me to ask what was happening. I didn't explain. 6 months after I walked back into my own condo that November night, the civil matter was settled. My mother agreed to a repayment schedule for $38,000, negotiated down from the full amount in exchange for a quicker resolution and no escalation to the CRA. Derek signed a separate agreement acknowledging the unauthorized occupancy and the missing personal property, the furniture, the laptop, the stand mixer. He paid for the stand mixer in 4 installments. I know how it sounds from the outside. I know that people will say it was cold, or calculated, or that families should work things out differently. I have thought about that a lot. I think there is a version of this story where I had a conversation earlier, where I raised it softly and we found a way through. But I also know that I raised smaller things, softer things, for years, and each time the raising of the thing became the problem and the thing itself was never addressed. So, I stopped raising small things and built something that couldn't be dismissed. 2 weeks after the settlement, my cousin asked me at a birthday dinner whether I felt guilty. I told her the truth. I felt tired, in the good way, the way you feel after finishing something difficult and necessary. I felt clear. I felt like myself in a way I hadn't in years. I refilled my glass. It was a 2021 Henry of Pelham Baco Noir. Very good. Picked up on a drive through Niagara last September. I had finally gotten around to replacing the toss.